6 months had passed since the Vorkon fleet was destroyed. The Galactic Council had settled into an uneasy acceptance that Earth's defenses were beyond their understanding. Trade with humanity continued. Diplomatic relations remained stable, but everyone kept their distance, treating Earth with the caution usually reserved for much more powerful civilizations. In the war chambers of the Thalgor hegemony, however, a different conversation was taking place. The Thalgor were one of the major military powers in the galaxy. They had conquered 17 star systems through superior tactics and overwhelming force. Their fleets were legendary. Their commanders were considered the best strategic minds in known space. General Carnvel stood before the hegemony's Supreme Council, presenting his analysis of the Vorkon defeat. He was tall even for a Thalgor, with ceremonial armor that displayed his many victories. His reputation as a military genius was well earned. The Vorkons failed because they were stupid, Carnvel declared bluntly. They attacked in a tight formation, making themselves easy targets. They did not spread out. They did not deploy scouts. They made every mistake possible. The Supreme Council listened carefully. The eldest among them, Councillor Vextar, leaned forward. So you believe Earth can be conquered with proper tactics? I believe Earth's defenses, whatever they are, can be overwhelmed, Carnvel replied. No weapon is perfect. Every defense has limitations. We simply need to find those limitations and exploit them. He activated a holographic display showing the solar system. We will attack in waves, spread across the entire system. We will deploy thousands of unmanned combat drones first, forcing them to reveal their firing positions. We will attack from multiple directions simultaneously, dividing their attention, and we will bring sufficient force that even if we lose half our fleet, the other half will be enough to claim the planet. The council debated for 3 days. Some members urged caution. Others saw an opportunity to claim a resource-rich world and establish the hegemony as the dominant power in the galaxy. Finally, the vote was called. The decision was made. They would attack Earth. The Thalgor assembled a massive fleet, 93 warships, including 3 of their enormous dreadnoughts. Each dreadnought was 5 miles long, carrying enough firepower to destroy a moon. Supporting them were battlecruisers, destroyers, and carrier ships loaded with thousands of combat drones. It was the largest military operation the hegemony had launched in a generation. They gathered at the edge of the solar system, organizing their attack formation with precision. General Carnvel reviewed every detail personally. He would not repeat the Vorkon mistakes. On Earth, the detection systems picked up the Thalgor fleet the moment they entered the solar system. Alarms rang in military facilities across the planet. Within minutes, Director Frank Palmer was in the Situation Room with the Joint Chiefs. 93 ships, Admiral Roger Bennett reported, his voice tense. They're organizing into 5 separate attack groups. They're not rushing in like the Vorkons did. They're planning this carefully. Frank studied the tactical display. The Thalgor were spreading out, creating multiple threat vectors. It was smart. It would require more of Earth's quantum stations to activate simultaneously. Threat assessment? He asked. Dr. Lisa Morgan was already running calculations on her tablet. We have enough active stations to handle this fleet, but it will be closer than the Vorkon incident. They're spreading out enough that we'll need to activate stations from the outer system as well as the inner ones. How long until they're in range to threaten Earth? At their current speed, approximately 6 hours. But they're deploying drones ahead of the main fleet. Those will reach engagement range in 90 minutes. Frank nodded. Alert all stations. Prepare for extended engagement. This time we're facing a real military force, not pirates playing at conquest. Make sure everyone understands that. Across the planet and throughout the solar system, hidden facilities received their orders. Operators began running system checks. Equipment that had been on standby powered up to full operational status. The quantum probability manipulators hummed with barely contained energy. Lieutenant Danny Cooper reported to his station in the Rocky Mountain facility. His shift commander, Major Julie Adams, briefed the team. This is going to be different from the Vorkon attack. These aliens are professional soldiers. They're using proper tactics. We need to maintain firing discipline and avoid falling into predictable patterns. Understood, ma'am, Danny replied, taking his position at his console. His screen showed the approaching drone swarm. Thousands of small, unmanned attack craft spreading out in a complex formation. They were designed to draw fire, to map out enemy defenses. All stations report ready. came the announcement from Strategic Command. Engage at will when targets enter range. The first Thalgor drones crossed into the engagement zone near Jupiter's orbit. For a moment, nothing happened. General Carnevale watched from his flagship, studying his sensors carefully. There, his tactical officer announced. Drone Cluster 7 just lost contact. 17 drones destroyed. Carnevale nodded, marking the location on his map. Note the position. Continue the advance. More drones died as they pushed deeper into the solar system. Carnevale watched the pattern of losses, trying to determine where Earth's weapons were located. But the pattern made no sense. Drones died seemingly at random. Sometimes entire clusters would be destroyed. Other times only a few. There was no clear firing position he could identify. Deploy the second wave, he ordered. Push them harder. Make them show themselves. Behind the drones, the main Thalgor fleet advanced in 5 separate groups. They maintained wide spacing, making it impossible for any single weapon to target multiple ships. Their shields were at maximum. Their weapons were ready to return fire the moment they detected the source of Earth's attacks. In the Australian Outback facility, a team led by Commander Pete Harrison prepared to engage the main fleet. Their quantum probability manipulator was one of the most powerful in Earth's network, capable of reaching all the way to Mars' orbit. Target acquired, the weapons officer announced. Thalgor battlecruiser bearing 327, range 15 million kilometers. Fire, Commander Harrison ordered calmly. The device activated, reaching across the vast distance of space. It did not fire a beam or launch a missile. It simply made a small change to the quantum probability field surrounding the target ship. Specifically, it made it extremely probable that the ship's fusion reactor would experience a cascade failure in its magnetic containment. The Thalgor battlecruiser's reactor, which had been running perfectly for decades, suddenly decided that its containment field should not exist anymore. The fusion reaction that powered the ship became uncontained. The explosion was visible from Earth. First capital ship destroyed, reported Admiral Bennett from the Situation Room. Thalgor fleet is maintaining formation. They're not panicking like the Vorkans did. Frank watched as more icons on the tactical display changed from green to red. The Thalgor were losing ships steadily, but they were not retreating. They were professionals, and they were following their orders. General Carnevale watched as his fleet died around him. His tactical display showed ship after ship going dark, but he also noticed something important. There was a slight delay between attacks. Whatever Earth's weapons were, they could not fire continuously. They needed time between shots. All ships maximum thrust, he ordered. Get to the planet as fast as possible. If we can get into low orbit, they may not be able to fire without risking hitting their own world. It was a desperate strategy, but it was based on sound tactical thinking. Most weapons could not be used if there was a risk of hitting friendly targets. The Thalgor ships accelerated, racing toward Earth at their maximum speed. In the Situation Room, alarms began blaring. They're making a run for Earth orbit, Admiral Bennett announced. Current speed will bring them into low orbit in 40 minutes. Can we stop them all before they reach us? Frank asked. Dr. Lisa ran the calculations. It will be close. We're cycling through stations as fast as we can, but they're moving faster than projected. We might have to let some reach orbit. Frank's face remained calm, but his mind was racing. If even one Thalgor ship reached low orbit and opened fire on a city, millions could die. Prioritize the dreadnoughts. Those are the biggest threat. Across the solar system, every active quantum station focused on the 3 massive dreadnoughts leading the Thalgor charge. The devices worked in sequence, each one reaching out to make reality a little more hostile to the target ships. The first dreadnought's hull began to fail on a molecular level. The metal that had been forged in orbital foundries, tested against extreme conditions, decided that it would rather be individual atoms than a coherent structure. The ship tore itself apart along every seam and joint. The second dreadnought lasted longer, but only by seconds. Its reactor and main drive failed simultaneously, leaving it a dead hulk tumbling through space. The third dreadnought actually made it past Mars' orbit before the accumulated probability changes caught up with it. Multiple systems failed at once. Life support, weapons, engines, shields. The massive ship became a tomb for its 3,000 crew members, but smaller Thalgor ships were still coming. The news of the Thalgor defeat spread through the galaxy faster than light itself. 2 major military powers had thrown their fleets against Earth. Both had been utterly destroyed. The casualty numbers were staggering. The implications were terrifying. In the Galactic Council chamber, the mood was somber. Representatives gathered not to debate, but to try to understand. How could one small world, barely a member of galactic civilization for 3 years, destroy 2 invasion fleets without even deploying a visible military force? High Scholar Ventax addressed the council, his tentacles moving slowly with age and weariness. We must accept what we see before us. Earth possesses defensive capabilities that surpass anything in our collective knowledge. 2 fleets, 130 ships total, nearly obliterated, and we still cannot explain how it was done. Ambassador Kilmora stood, her crystalline body reflecting the lights of the chamber. Perhaps the time has come to simply ask the humans, not as a demand but as a request. We need to understand, if only to prevent more deaths. Commander Zixthar, who had witnessed both battles from his observation post, agreed. I have analyzed every sensor reading from both attacks. I have consulted with our greatest scientists. They all say the same thing. What the humans have achieved should be theoretically impossible, yet it exists. I support asking them directly. After a long debate, the council voted. They would send a diplomatic mission to Earth, led by Ambassador Kilmora herself. The mission would be small, non-threatening, and would simply ask for understanding. On Earth, Director Frank Palmer received word of the council's decision. He sat in his office reading the formal diplomatic request. The Joint Chiefs had already met to discuss how to respond. The decision had gone all the way to the President and the United Nations. They want to know, General Claire Warren said, sitting across from Frank's desk. And honestly, maybe it's time to tell them. We've made our point. We've proven that attacking Earth is suicide. Now we can either keep them guessing forever, or we can be honest and let them understand why they should leave us alone. Frank nodded slowly. The President agrees. So does the UN Secretary General. We've been preparing this disclosure for months just in case. If we're going to tell them, we do it our way. Controlled release of information, just enough to make them understand, not enough to let them duplicate what we've done. 2 weeks later, Ambassador Kilmora arrived on Earth. She came with only 3 assistants, all unarmed. They were greeted with courtesy and respect. Secretary General Patricia Wells met them personally at the landing site in Geneva. Welcome to Earth, Patricia said warmly. We understand you have questions for us. We do, Kilmora replied. But first, let me say that we come in peace. The Galactic Council has no hostile intentions toward humanity. We simply seek understanding. We know, Patricia said. We've been monitoring your communications. We know the Council debates and the various theories about our defenses. Some of those theories are quite creative. Kilmora's crystalline body shifted in what might have been embarrassment. You know we spy on you. Of course, we spy on you too. That's what governments do. But that's not important right now. Come, we have a meeting prepared. They were taken to a secure conference room in a facility outside the city. Waiting for them were Director Frank Palmer, Dr. Lisa Morgan, and Colonel Jack Hayes. Holographic displays floated in the center of the room, currently showing nothing. Please sit, Frank invited. We've decided to answer your questions. Not all of them, but enough that you'll understand why Earth doesn't need visible defenses. Kilmora and her assistants took their seats. The ambassador spoke carefully. We have theories. Some think you have cloaked weapons platforms. Others believe you've developed advanced artificial intelligence that controls hidden fleets. A few, like the Krellian analyst Trevkor, believe you've somehow weaponized quantum physics itself. Dr. Lisa smiled. Trevkor is a very smart individual. His theory is essentially correct, though he lacks the technical details. She activated the holographic display. It showed a map of the solar system with hundreds of points marked throughout. Before we joined the galactic community, we were preparing to defend ourselves. We knew that if hostile aliens existed, they might have technology far beyond ours. We couldn't beat them with conventional weapons. So we developed something unconventional. The display zoomed in on one of the marked points. It showed empty space, but with complex mathematical equations overlaid. We call them quantum probability manipulators. They don't exist in normal space the way you think of matter existing. They exist in a quantum superposition state, spread across multiple dimensions. Kilmora leaned forward, her scientific curiosity overcoming her diplomatic reserve. That should be impossible. Quantum superposition collapses when observed or when it interacts with the environment. Normally, yes, Dr. Lisa agreed. But we found a way to stabilize the superposition state using carefully tuned fields. The manipulators exist in a state where they are both real and not real. They can interact with normal space, but normal space cannot fully interact with them. Your sensors cannot detect them because they're only partially in the dimension your sensors can scan. Colonel Jack took over the explanation. When a hostile ship enters our solar system, the quantum manipulators activate. They don't fire projectiles or energy beams. Instead, they manipulate the probability fields around the target. They make it extremely probable that the target will experience catastrophic failures. You make reality itself hostile to your enemies, Kelmora said quietly. Finally understanding? Essentially, yes, Frank confirmed. A ship's hull might be perfectly stable one moment. Then we change the probability field, and it becomes highly probable that the molecular bonds holding that hull together will fail. The ship doesn't get shot. It simply stops being structurally sound. One of Kelmora's assistants spoke up. How many of these manipulators do you have? Frank smiled slightly. Enough. Throughout the solar system, they're powered by vacuum energy, drawing power from the quantum foam of space itself. They'll function for millions of years without maintenance, and they're fully automated, responding to any hostile act within their range. So Earth truly is untouchable, Kelmora said. Any fleet that enters your space with hostile intent will be destroyed by weapons that cannot be detected, cannot be targeted, and cannot be defended against. That's the idea, Frank agreed. We don't want to conquer anyone. We don't want conflict. We just want to be left alone to develop at our own pace. Our defenses ensure that anyone who doesn't respect that choice will remove themselves from the equation. Dr. Lisa pulled up another display, this one showing complex physics equations. I should mention that while the basic principle of quantum probability manipulation has been known for decades, the technical requirements to make it work as a weapon are extremely specific. You need a complete understanding of quantum field theory, the ability to generate precisely tuned multidimensional fields, and the computing power to calculate and maintain billions of simultaneous probability states. You're telling us we cannot duplicate this technology, Kelmora observed. I'm telling you it took humanity 80 years of focused research, the combined efforts of every nation on Earth, and breakthroughs in 3 separate fields of physics, Lisa replied. Could other species eventually develop similar technology? Perhaps, but it would take decades, maybe centuries, and by then, we'll have developed even better defenses. The meeting continued for several hours. The humans answered questions carefully, providing enough information to satisfy understanding without revealing anything that could be weaponized against them. They explained that the quantum manipulators would only respond to hostile acts. Peaceful ships could pass through the solar system without any danger. Finally, as the meeting wound down, Kelmora asked one final question. Why are you telling us this? You could have kept us guessing forever. The mystery alone was an effective deterrent. Frank leaned back in his chair. Because we want the galaxy to make an informed decision. We want every species to understand that attacking Earth is not just difficult or dangerous. It's absolutely pointless. We want military planners to look at their star maps, see Earth, and automatically cross it off any target list. Not because they fear defeat, but because they understand that defeat is the only possible outcome. Patricia Wells, who had been listening quietly, added her thoughts. Humanity has fought itself for thousands of years. We know war. We know what it costs. Now that we're part of a galactic community, we want peace. But we also want to ensure that our desire for peace is not mistaken for weakness. We are defenseless by your standards because we don't need the kind of defenses you understand. We've gone beyond that. Kelmora stood and her assistants rose with her. I will report everything we've discussed to the Galactic Council. I believe your message will be understood. Earth will be left in peace. That's all we ask, Frank replied. The diplomatic mission departed Earth the next day. Within a week, Kelmora's report was circulating through the Galactic Council. The response was exactly what Earth had hoped for. Species after species updated their military doctrines. Earth was marked as a protected system, not by any galactic law, but by simple acknowledgement. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so full. Representatives from over 60 species crowded into the meeting hall, all of them wanting to see the sensor data from the Vorkan incident. The destruction of an entire military fleet with no visible weapons had sent shockwaves through galactic civilization. Commander Zixthar stood at the central podium once again, but this time his demeanor was different. His 4 eyes showed caution instead of contempt. "I have reviewed the data 17 times, he said to the assembled aliens. "My science team has analyzed every moment of the battle. We cannot explain what happened." He activated the holographic display showing the battle in slow motion. The council watched as Vorkan ships simply exploded or fell apart with no visible cause. Sensor readings scrolled past showing nothing. No energy signatures. No mass projectiles. No heat blooms from weapon fire, nothing. "The humans must have cloaked weapons," insisted Ambassador Velmon from the Tarkon Collective. "Perhaps they have developed stealth technology that our sensors cannot penetrate." High Scholar Ventax moved his tentacles in a gesture of disagreement. "We considered that possibility. But stealth technology cannot hide everything. Weapons produce heat when they fire. Energy must come from somewhere. Mass must exist in physical space. Yet our sensors detected absolutely nothing. It is as if the Vorkan ships were destroyed by empty space itself." "Then what is your theory?" asked Zixthar. Ventax was quiet for a moment. "I do not have one that makes sense. But I do know one thing. We should not attack Earth. Whatever the humans have, it is beyond our current understanding." Ambassador Kelmora projected another hologram, this one showing Earth orbit during the battle. "Notice this," she said, her crystal body reflecting the light. Human civilian ships continued their normal traffic patterns throughout the battle. Supply ships going to their Mars colony, communication satellites maintaining their orbits. They acted as if nothing was happening at all. "That is because they knew they were safe," Zixthar said quietly. "They knew the Vorkans could not threaten them. The question is, how many of these invisible weapons do they have?" On Earth, in the Situation Room deep beneath the White House, Director Frank Palmer sat with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. They were watching the same Galactic Council meeting through their intercepted transmissions. The aliens were confused and frightened exactly as intended. "They're going to keep investigating," General Claire Warren said, tapping her datapad. "The Krellians are too curious. They won't let this go. Eventually someone will figure out the pattern." Frank nodded. He was an older man with sharp eyes and a face that rarely smiled. He had been running Earth's actual defense network for 5 years, ever since the project became operational. "Then we give them something to find. Deploy the decoy network, fake energy signatures, false mass readings. Lead them toward answers they can understand." "What about the Vorkan survivors?" asked Admiral Roger Bennett. 4 ships escaped. They'll have their own sensor data, which will show the same thing as everyone else's data," Frank replied. "Nothing. Let them share it. Let every species in the galaxy analyze it. They'll all reach the same conclusion. Earth has weapons they cannot detect or understand. That uncertainty is our greatest protection." General Claire pulled up a star map showing various alien territories. "What about retaliation?" "The Vorkan supremacy lost most of their fleet. They might try to rally allies for a larger attack." Frank shook his head. "Intelligence reports suggest the Vorkan government is collapsing. When a military society loses its military, the whole system falls apart. They'll be too busy with civil war to threaten anyone. The real concern is the major powers. If the Krellians or the Thalgor hegemony decide to test us, that will be a much bigger problem." Captain Alan Morrison received his new orders while his ship was docked at Mars Station. He was to take a specific route back to Earth that would pass near several known Galactic Council observation posts. During the flight, his crew would perform routine maintenance that would produce very specific energy signatures. "They want us to be bait," his first officer Helen Carter said after reading the orders. "Not bait," Alan corrected. "Misdirection. We'll produce energy readings that look like weapon systems powering up. The aliens will detect us, think they've found part of Earth's defense network, and focus their attention on conventional explanations." Helen looked skeptical. "And if they try to capture us to study these weapons?" Alan smiled. "Then they'll board a regular civilian freighter and find nothing but food supplies and spare parts. But the confusion will reinforce the idea that Earth's defenses are just very well hidden." "Sneaky," Helen admitted. "I like it." The Midnight Runner departed Mars Station 3 hours later, following the designated flight path. Within a day, 3 different alien observation posts had detected its unusual energy signature. Intelligence reports began flying through alien communication networks. Possible human weapons platform detected. Unusual energy readings from civilian ship. maybe disguised military vessel. Back on the Krellian homeworld, analyst Trevkor was working 18 hours a day, trying to understand humans. His superiors had finally started taking his research seriously after the Vorkan incident. Now they wanted answers, and they wanted them quickly. He pulled up human historical records again, focusing on their military history. Humans had fought each other in thousands of wars before reaching space. Trevkor studied their tactics, their strategies, their thinking, and he began to see patterns that disturbed him. Humans loved deception. They used camouflage to hide in plain sight. They built fake installations to draw enemy fire away from real targets. They used dummy tanks, false radio transmissions, and elaborate tricks to make their enemies see things that were not there. But more than that, humans understood physics in a way that seemed different from other species. Trevkor read their scientific papers, published openly for anyone to access. Papers on quantum mechanics, on particle physics, on the fundamental forces that held the universe together. One paper caught his attention. It was written by a human scientist named Dr. Lisa Morgan, published 3 years before Earth joined the galactic community. The paper discussed theoretical applications of quantum probability manipulation. At the time, it had been dismissed by most galactic scientists as interesting but impractical. Trevkor read it carefully, then read it again. The mathematics were complex, but the basic idea was simple. If you could manipulate probability at the quantum level, you could make unlikely things become likely. You could make stable things become unstable. You could reach across vast distances and change reality itself. They did it, Trevkor whispered to himself. They found a way to weaponize quantum mechanics. That is why there is nothing to detect. There is nothing there until they want something to stop existing. He began writing a detailed report documenting his theory, but he knew it would be received with skepticism. The idea was too radical, too different from conventional weapons. Most military commanders would dismiss it as speculation. Still, he had to try. He compiled all his evidence, all his research, and sent it to the Council's Military Analysis Division. Then he sat back and waited. Lieutenant Kate Sullivan was monitoring alien communications when she detected Trevkor's report passing through Krellian channels. She read it quickly, her eyes widening as she understood what the alien analyst had figured out. "Colonel Hayes," she called out, "we have a problem. One of the Krellian analysts has figured it out. He's written a report explaining our quantum probability weapons." Jack came over to her station and read the report himself. He was quiet for a long moment. "How accurate is he?" "Very. He doesn't have all the technical details, but he understands the basic principle. If his superiors believe him, they'll know exactly what we're doing." Jack thought about this. "Let me see his file." Kate pulled up everything they had on Trevkor. He was young for a Krellian, ambitious, intelligent. He had been studying humanity since first contact. He had no close allies in the Krellian military command, which meant his report might be ignored. "Monitor the response to his report," Jack ordered. "If the Krellian military takes it seriously, we may need to adjust our strategy. If they dismiss it, we let him keep talking. Sometimes the truth is so unbelievable that it serves as the perfect cover." Over the next few days, Trevkor's report circulated through various levels of Krellian command. Most senior officers dismissed it as wild speculation. A few found it interesting but unproven. Only a handful took it seriously enough to recommend further investigation. But the report also leaked beyond the Krellian Empire. Copies made their way to other species' intelligence services. Soon, various alien governments were debating the same question. Had humans really weaponized quantum physics itself? In the Galactic Council, the debate grew heated. Some species wanted to demand that Earth explain its defenses. Others argued that Earth had every right to defend itself however it chose. A few quietly suggested that perhaps Earth should be left alone. High Scholar Ventax watched the debate with his tentacles wrapped tight around himself. He had read Trevkor's report and believed every word, but he also understood something that most of the Council did not. It did not matter if they understood how Earth's defenses worked. The Vorkan Supremacy held their secret war council in a heavily guarded room on their homeworld. Supreme Commander Kreshavan stood before a group of military leaders, all of them looking at holographic images of Earth floating in the center of the room. "This is our opportunity," Kreshavan declared, his voice filled with confidence. "The human world is completely undefended. No shields, no weapons platforms, no military fleet. It is the perfect target. One of the younger officers raised a concern. But Supreme Commander, why would they have no defenses? Perhaps it is a trap. Kreshavan laughed, a harsh sound. A trap? Look at the scans. We have been watching them for months. There is nothing there. The humans are simply arrogant and foolish. They think because they are new to the galaxy, everyone will leave them alone. We will teach them otherwise. The Council voted unanimously. They would invade Earth, claim it for the Vorkan supremacy, and use its resources to elevate their position in galactic politics. Within days, they assembled a war fleet of 37 ships. It was not the largest fleet in the galaxy, but it was more than enough to conquer one undefended planet. The fleet gathered at the edge of the solar system, their weapons charged and shields at maximum power. Kreshavan stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at Earth on his view screen. The planet looked so peaceful, so vulnerable. "Send the message," he ordered. His communications officer activated the transmission, broadcasting on all frequencies that humans used. Kreshavan's face appeared on screens all over Earth, in every language humans spoke. "People of Earth, this is Supreme Commander Kreshavan of the Vorkan Supremacy. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender immediately, and we will allow your governments to serve under our rule. Resist, and we will show you why the galaxy fears our military might. You have one of your hours to respond." On Earth, the message played across news channels, government offices, and military facilities. In some cities, people gathered in the streets watching the sky with worry. In others, people just went about their daily business, trusting that their leaders knew what to do. In the United Nations headquarters in New York, Secretary General Patricia Wells sat calmly at her desk. Around her, holographic images showed other world leaders in their own offices. None of them looked panicked. They had been preparing for this moment for years. Prime Minister Graham Clark appeared from London, sipping tea as if this were just another morning meeting. "Well, that was rather rude of them. Shall we show them why manners matter?" President Helen Torres nodded from Washington. "I agree. Defense Authorization Code Sierra Whiskey 779er. All stations are cleared to engage." Patricia looked at each leader in turn. They all nodded their agreement. "Very well. Protocol 7 is now active. May those who threaten Earth learn why peace is our choice, not our weakness." In the Vorkan fleet, Kreshavan waited for the human response. 1 hour passed. Then another. No surrender came, no communication at all. The humans were ignoring him. "Foolish creatures," he muttered. "Prepare to fire on their largest cities. We will make an example that the entire galaxy will see." His weapons officer began targeting Earth's major population centers: New York, London, Tokyo, Beijing, Los Angeles. The targeting computers locked on, weapons charged and ready. "Fire on my command," Kreshavan said. 3, 2, 1, fire. Nothing happened. For exactly 17 seconds, the Vorkan fleet hung in space, weapons aimed at Earth. In that time, Kreshavan wondered why his weapons were not responding. His crew checked their systems. Everything showed ready. The weapons should have fired. Then reality itself seemed to change. The Vorkan destroyer on the fleet's left flank simply exploded. One moment it was there, solid and real. The next moment it was expanding debris, metal and fire spreading into space. There was no missile, no energy beam, no warning at all. The ship just ceased to exist as a ship and became wreckage instead. "What happened?" Kreshavan shouted. "Where did that come from?" His sensor officer stared at his screens, his face pale. "Sir, I detected nothing. No weapon fire. No energy signature. Nothing at all. The ship just exploded. That's impossible. Scan the area. Find the weapon platform." The sensors swept the area where the destroyer had been. Empty space. No hidden ships. No cloaked stations. Nothing but the void between the planets and the distant stars. Another Vorkan cruiser exploded. Then another. The ships were dying and no one could see what was killing them. The Vorkan crews began firing their weapons in all directions, hoping to hit whatever was attacking them. Their energy beams and missiles flew through empty space, hitting nothing. Far away, watching from a secret observation post at the edge of the solar system, Commander Zixthar of the Krellian Empire watched with all 4 of his eyes wide open. His science officer was running every scan they had, pushing their sensors to maximum power. "Report," Zixthar demanded. "Sir, I cannot detect any weapons. No energy discharges. No mass drivers. No missile launches from Earth. The Vorkan ships are simply exploding, but there is no cause that our sensors can detect. That is impossible. Energy does not simply vanish. Weapons do not fire without leaving traces. Scan again. On Earth, in a facility hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, Lieutenant Danny Cooper sat at his console, calm and focused. Around him, dozens of other operators sat at similar stations. Their screens showed images of the Vorkan fleet, with targeting information overlaid on each ship. Site 17 reports successful engagement, Danny announced in a professional voice. Target eliminated. Moving to next target. Site 42 is spinning up for the next shot. Colonel Sarah Mitchell walked behind the operators watching their work. She had been in the military for 25 years, but this technology still amazed her. Maintain firing sequence. Keep the timing random. We don't want them to predict where the next shot is coming from. Yes, ma'am, Danny replied. His fingers moved across his controls. On his screen, a new target was selected. A Vorkan battlecruiser. He pressed a button. Site 17 engaging now, thousands of miles away, beneath the ocean floor off the coast of California. A facility that officially did not exist activated a device that would have been called impossible by every scientist in the galaxy. The device reached out across millions of miles of space, touching a specific point where a Vorkan ship floated. It did not fire a weapon. It did not send a projectile. It simply changed the probability of certain atomic bonds remaining stable. The Vorkan battlecruiser's hull, which had been solid metal one moment, decided on a molecular level that it would rather be expanding gas. The change happened almost instantly. The ship tore itself apart from the inside out. Kreshevan watched as his fleet died around him. Ships exploded for no reason. Others simply fell apart as if invisible hands were pulling them to pieces. His crews were panicking, screaming into their communicators, begging for orders. We cannot fight what we cannot see, his first officer said, fear clear in his voice. Supreme Commander, we must retreat. Pride warred with survival instinct in Kreshevan's mind. He had come here to conquer Earth. To run away would mean shame, but to stay would mean death. He watched another 3 ships explode in quick succession. New course, he finally ordered. Full thrust toward the planet. We will enter their atmosphere. Whatever is attacking us cannot fire if we use their own world as a shield. It was his last command. His flagship shuddered as something fundamental changed deep in its core. The reactor, which had been safely contained and controlled, suddenly was not contained anymore. The explosion was visible from Earth, a brief new star blooming in orbit. The surviving Vorkan ships broke formation and ran. Their commanders did not wait for orders. They activated their hyperspace drives and jumped away, desperate to escape whatever invisible horror was killing them. Of the 37 ships that had entered the solar system with such confidence, only 4 managed to jump to hyperspace before they were destroyed. The rest became expanding clouds of debris, floating monuments to the price of attacking Earth. In the Strategic Command Center, Colonel Jack Hayes watched the tactical display as the last Vorkan ship vanished. Stand down all sites, return to standby mode. Across the planet, in hidden facilities beneath mountains, under oceans, and in seemingly ordinary buildings, operators powered down their equipment. The battle had lasted less than an hour from start to finish. Dr. Lisa Morgan pulled up casualty reports. 0 human casualties. 0 damage to any Earth facilities. The Vorkans lost 33 ships and approximately 47,000 personnel. Jack nodded slowly. There was no satisfaction in his face, only a grim acceptance. Send the standard message to the Galactic Council. Earth was attacked. Earth defended itself. We seek no further conflict, but we will defend our home against all threats. Message sent, Lisa confirmed. In his observation post, Commander Zixthar was already composing his report to the Krellian Empire. He reviewed the sensor data again and again, trying to find something, anything that would explain what he had witnessed. His science officer had given up, simply shaking his head in disbelief. Prepare the data for transmission, Zixthar ordered. The Council must know about this. The humans have weapons that our technology cannot detect. They are far more dangerous than anyone realized. The message would reach the Galactic Council within days. The meeting hall of the Galactic Council was filled with worried voices. Representatives from 47 different alien species had gathered to talk about a problem that kept getting worse. In the center of the massive chamber, Commander Zixthar stood tall, his 4 eyes looking at everyone with obvious frustration. He was from the Krellian Empire, one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. We need to talk about the humans. Zixthar said loudly, and the room became quiet. He pressed a button and a hologram appeared in the air. It showed Earth, a blue and green planet spinning peacefully in the darkness of space. Look at this world. It has been 3 full cycles since they joined our community. 3 cycles and they still have nothing to protect themselves. The other aliens leaned forward to look at the images. Zixthar showed them scan after scan of Earth's solar system. There were no massive space stations with weapons, no energy shields surrounding the planet, no fighter ships patrolling the empty space between the planets. Nothing at all that looked like defense. We have offered to help them, Zixthar continued. We have told them about the dangers in space, pirates, slavers, conquerors. The galaxy is not a safe place. But every time we offer protection, they say no. Every time we suggest building defenses, they refuse. I do not understand these humans. Ambassador Kelmora stood up slowly. She was from the Unified Reaches, and her body was made of something that looked like living crystal. When she spoke, her voice sounded like wind chimes. Perhaps they are simply young and foolish. They only discovered faster-than-light travel a few years ago. Maybe they do not understand how dangerous space really is. Several other aliens nodded their heads in agreement. It made sense. Humans were new to the galaxy. They probably did not know better. But then High Scholar Ventax raised one of his many tentacles. He was old and respected, known for being very smart. I do not think they are foolish, he said carefully. My research team has been studying human history. We have read their books, watched their entertainment, and studied their wars from before they reached space. These creatures are different from us. They have a strange way of thinking. What do you mean? Asked Zixthar. Humans do not fight the way we do, Ventax explained. When we go to war, we build bigger weapons, stronger shields, faster ships. We try to overpower our enemies. But humans do something else. They trick their enemies. They set traps. They make their enemies destroy themselves. I have seen this pattern again and again in their history. When they look weak, that is when they are most dangerous. The room erupted in discussion. Some aliens thought Ventax was being paranoid. Others thought he might be right. The debate went on for hours. Far away on Earth, Colonel Jack Hayes sat in a large underground room filled with computers and screens. This was the Pentagon's Strategic Command Center, hidden deep beneath the ground in Washington. Jack was watching the same Galactic Council meeting through intercepted communications. Humans had gotten very good at listening to alien transmissions without being detected. Next to him, Dr. Lisa Morgan adjusted her glasses and typed on her keyboard. More information appeared on the screens around them. They're getting closer, she said quietly. The Krellians are getting suspicious. They've been scanning our solar system every 6 hours for the past month. Their sensors are getting better too. Jack leaned back in his chair. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. He had been in the military for 30 years and had seen a lot. But nothing in his career had been quite like this. Let them scan, he said with a small smile. They're looking for the kind of weapons they understand. Energy cannons, missile platforms, shield generators. They won't find what they're looking for because they don't even know what to look for. Lisa nodded and pulled up another screen. It showed a map of the solar system with hundreds of small dots scattered throughout it. To anyone else, the dots would mean nothing. But Jack and Lisa knew exactly what they represented. Across the facility, Lieutenant Kate Sullivan sat at her station wearing headphones and watching multiple screens at once. Her job was to monitor all communications in deep space that mentioned Earth or humans. For the past month, the amount of chatter had increased dramatically, 70% more than usual. Everyone in the galaxy seemed to be talking about the defenseless human homeworld. Kate flagged several particularly interesting conversations. Some were curious, some were worried, and some were calculating as if planning something. She sent those to Jack immediately. We've got more interest from the Vorkan supremacy, she reported. Third time this week they've been discussing Earth in their military channels. Jack frowned slightly. The Vorkans were not a major power in the galaxy, but they were ambitious, and ambitious species with limited power often made stupid decisions. Meanwhile, in orbit around a distant moon near Jupiter, Captain Alan Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the Midnight Runner. To anyone looking at his ship's registration, he was just a civilian merchant captain. He carried supplies between Earth and the small colonies humans had built in their solar system. His crew was small and unremarkable. His cargo holds were filled with food, equipment, and other boring supplies. But Alan knew the truth. In hidden compartments beneath his cargo bay, sophisticated equipment waited silently. Equipment that could do things the galaxy had never seen before. Alan and hundreds of other civilian captains like him were actually part of Earth's real defense network. "Everything normal, Captain," reported his first officer, a woman named Helen Carter. "We're on schedule to reach Mars Station in 6 hours." "Good," Alan replied. "Keep our course steady. And Helen, make sure the lower bay stays locked. We don't want any unexpected visitors." Helen nodded. She had been flying with Alan for 2 years and knew exactly what was hidden below. She had been part of the military before becoming a civilian merchant. Most of Alan's crew had similar backgrounds. Back in the Strategic Command Center, Jack received another report. This one made him pause. The Krellians just upgraded their scanning equipment again, an analyst informed him. "4th upgrade in 2 months. They're persistent," Lisa observed. "Sooner or later they might detect something." "Then we'll give them something to detect," Jack replied. "But it won't be the truth. Deploy the decoys in sectors 7 through 12. Make sure the energy signatures look like weapon platforms charging up. Keep them focused on what they expect to see." Lisa smiled and sent the orders. Within hours, fake signals would appear throughout the solar system. The Krellians would detect them and think they had finally found Earth's defenses. They would be wrong, but it would keep them looking in the wrong direction. In his private office in the Krellian intelligence facility, analyst Trevkor sat alone, reading human files. He had been assigned to study humanity months ago, and the more he learned, the more worried he became. These humans were not like other species. Their brains worked differently. They saw problems and solutions in ways that seemed almost alien. Even though they were the aliens in galactic society, he pulled up a human movie, something called a war film. He watched as human soldiers in an old war used clever tricks to defeat a larger enemy force. They did not win through strength. They won by being smart, by making their enemy waste resources, by turning the enemy's own power against them. Trevkor wrote in his notes, "Humans prefer intelligence over strength, deception over direct confrontation. They make their enemies defeat themselves. Recommend extreme caution in any dealings with this species." He sent his report to his superiors. They replied quickly, telling him to focus on facts, not speculation. Frustrated, Trevkor went back to his research. He knew he was right. He just needed to prove it. Back on Earth, Jack Hayes looked at the latest intelligence reports before going home for the night. The galaxy was watching Earth with increasing interest. Several species were asking questions. Some were just curious. Others had darker intentions. "It's only a matter of time," he said to Lisa. "Someone is going to try something." "I know," Lisa replied. "And when they do, the galaxy will learn why we don't need visible defenses." Jack nodded slowly. Somewhere out in space, someone would eventually decide that Earth looked like an easy target. They would see a planet with no shields, no weapons, no fleet. They would think the humans were weak and unprepared. They would be wrong, and they would learn that lesson in the hardest way possible.